Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by Arsalan Iftikhar. He's a human rights lawyer and senior fellow at Georgetown University and joins me now from Washington, D.C. Good to have you on the programme, sir. Now, the move is seen as effectively annexing Kashmir, as New Delhi may have it, but after sort of it's revoking its autonomous status, it's all over social media, this conversation, as well as even the Pakistani Prime Minister alluding to this. What's your opinion about this wording of annexation? Do you agree with it?
Well, I think first, Sohail, people have to understand that the issue of Kashmir has been going on since 1948, when the United Nations Security Council passed a Security Council Resolution 47 stating that the people of Kashmir would get an opportunity to have a fair and impartial plebiscite referendum to decide their independence. 72 years later, we are still asking for that. And so, what we're seeing here today when it comes to Kashmir, where some estimates find that there's one Indian soldier for every 6 citizens, that it's the most policed state in the world. The fact that it is the largest continuous geographic mass on the face of the earth that's not an independent nation. It shows that, the international community really needs to really analyze what's going on with India and its draconian measures in revoking the special status of Jammu and Kashmir.
Indeed. I mean, as you say, there have been 17 UN resolutions, and I'm sure that the politicians both in Islamabad and New Delhi will be commenting on that in the days ahead. But if we look to what's happening right now, Kashmir continues to remain under lockdown, some respite during the Muslim religious holiday of Eid, as we mentioned, but under a sort of visually strong military presence, as you mentioned. How do you see the situation being resolved in the light of Sunday's protests?
Well, I think India and the Modi government is going to have to back down a little bit. I personally believe that, their total communication and travel lockdown was meant to incite a violent response from Kashmiris, and thankfully they've showed restraint in that regard. I think it's going to be important for regional players like Pakistan, Afghanistan, and others to bring some sort of resolution to the United Nations General Assembly to see where the international community of nations stands on this issue, and whether they stand on the side of justice for 12 million Kashmiris or on the heavy-handed draconian side of the Modi government in India.
How long can New Delhi continue the clampdown, considering the fact that even, I say, with that small respite, as we mentioned, we have seen those demonstrations, we have seen that anger on the street. Anger is one thing, a demonstration is very different.
Yeah, the international law, primarily governed by the ICCPR, which is the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, says that every human being alive should be allowed the ability to freely travel. But now, international law does allow some governments in extenuating circumstances to do crackdowns like this, but it has to be justified by public order. And so I don't think that India has met that standard yet. I really think that the international community, particularly the United Nations General Assembly and Security Council, are going to have to visit some sort of resolution where they can, try to send in international observers, journalists. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have all called on the Indian government to back down on their clampdown of Kashmir.
And of course, the Prime Minister himself, Prime Minister Modi, hopes that his move would have actually seen perhaps more investment heading into the region, and perhaps even an influx of Indians from other parts of the country. Under these circumstances, do you think it is still an attractive location for investment and for the relocation of Indians from other parts of the country?
I think it's a craven political move by Modi to appease his right-wing Hindutva, nationalist base. I think that at the end of the day, one executive, order like this is not going to change 70 years of Kashmiri history. And again, a unilateral move like this at a time when, for example, Indian-Pakistan relations have, just started thawing recently, especially with the regional peace with Afghanistan. I think the United States and the Western world really needs to step in here and help to mediate a situation in Kashmir.
Well, we will continue to monitor what does happen, certainly in the region. For the moment, Arsalan Iftikhar, thanks so much for joining us from Washington, D.C.